Well, hello, St. Luke's. I want to speak to you today from my heart about racism. I have found myself quiet over this last week, struggling with all that is within me, feeling like I'm not really qualified to speak about this, as my perspective is from a white man who has had pretty much every privilege. So I've tried to listen. I've reached out to friends and colleagues, black men and women whose perspective I value, who I really believe are seeking more than anything to be followers of Jesus. And honestly, my initial thought was that I would interview one of them for us today as part of our response. But in my first call, my friend said, it isn't up to me to speak to your people about this. That's up to you. And then he graciously said, I don't know why you need me to tell you what to think about seeing a man die on the street with a knee on his neck. His point's well made. So even though I worry about saying the wrong thing today, I think it's important that I speak anyway. Let me just say it first as succinctly and straightforwardly as I can. Racism is sin. The letter of James says, if you show partiality, you are a transgressor. White supremacy in any form, whether it be militant or subtle, is sin. Any system that gives privilege to those of us who are already advantaged is sin. Now the problem is that many of us don't see ourselves as racist. One of my colleagues asked it differently. How does racism manifest itself in your world and in your life? That's a helpful question. When I was 19 years old, I was in my first youth director job, and my father-in-law took a group of youth, including me and my little tiny youth group, on a trip to New York City. And we were walking down the street, and my wife, and I think maybe my sister-in-law, was with me. And I was 19, they were young, 19 and 17, I think. And a black man walked up to us as we were waiting to cross the street. And I remember him to be a bit scraggly. And I took these young women's arms and I kind of pulled them close to me. And the man saw me do that. And he said, why, when a black man walks up to you, do you all guard your women? And then the light turned to walk, and we walked forward. And it's funny how I can remember that from, 40 years ago. It's like a window into my heart. I can explain it, I can explain why I did it, but I can't excuse it. It's driven by fear and by too many other things. So first, let's just acknowledge it. Racism is sin. Second, this time in our world and our country is a time for us to be uncomfortable. When I spoke to my colleagues about it, I wanted them to appreciate and celebrate our support, and I suspect they did so. But they did not alleviate my discomfort. They were wise enough to not allow me to pat myself on the back for steps that I take or that we take. When we watch TV and see these pictures, it makes us uncomfortable, and we want our leaders to resolve that discomfort in some way. But maybe, just maybe, it is that if our discomfort resolves too quickly, nothing changes. So I recognize that the discomfort must continue until it's resolved by real, concrete, significant changes in both our hearts and in our world around us. I'm one who believes that we have made incredible progress over the last 150 years and even over the last few decades. But the events of this past week have just reminded us that there is still a long, long way to go. So we hold on to that discomfort. Third, we must do our best to learn practical, real, authentic empathy. I can't imagine what it might be like to be a person of color in our world. I'm a person who views police officers as helpers. They're protectors, they're friends. It's hard for me to imagine what it what it might be like to be afraid of police officers because of the color of my skin. What must that be like? I remember a few years ago, I was asked to speak at a high school that was predominantly, if not exclusively, all black and Hispanic young people. I didn't see another white person the whole time I was there. Was that song from Kids, one of these things is not like the other? Well, I was one of those things not like the other. And you know, the truth is I was simply afraid. And I thought to myself, I better mind my P's and Q's, watch what I say and do. And when I left, it made me wonder if my black colleagues feel that way around those of us who are white in a country where the decision makers are mostly white and mostly people with lots of resources, people like me. Practice empathy. Fourth, we must not be turned away from this issue by the yeah buts. Yeah, but the death of George Floyd doesn't excuse looting and vandalism and burning buildings. Absolutely not. Nope, sure doesn't. That is wrong any way you consider it. But it's easy to let that become the issue when the issue is so much deeper. Don't let that turn us away from the spiritual issue we're facing. We can talk about that too, but let's not use that to turn our attention away. Yeah, but it's just a few bad cops. Absolutely. There are so many wonderful police officers who do so much for us. But friends, this isn't a one-off. It's happened so many times, more than once. So let's address the root issues that lead to it. Yeah, but he was drunk and had drugs in his system. Or, yeah, but he passed a counterfeit bill. Well, does that mean he should die? Well, there will always be yeah buts. Look, these issues aren't simple, and all of these things contribute. But at the heart, there's a fundamental issue. And as much as we would like to think the world is colorblind and treats everybody the same, it isn't. And until we deal with that honestly, every time something like this happens, that century-old wound will be torn open again, and there'll be no healing. And finally, we must do something. It's so easy to march or film a video or post a statement. Yes, all these things make a point, but we want to really make a difference. So here's some things we can do. First, we can pray. I do believe that praying is doing something, contrary to popular belief. And second, we can seek to learn about the perspective of others, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Reverend Michelle Manuel is leading a Bible study on racism over the next 6 weeks. I think there's a link to that for you to sign up online. If not that, then have one-on-one conversations with people of color to hear their perspective and listen without waxing eloquent, without trying to justify your own perspective. And third, we can work for change, right? For more transparency in law enforcement, for a more equitable justice system, for housing and education and all of the things that go into developing and changing the world that support and make all the difference in other people's lives. Whatever those are, we can lean into those, and over days and weeks and months and years, real change can be made. Friend, I just hope we don't let this opportunity pass us. You know, I've shared with you before that the symbol in Chinese is the joining together of danger and opportunity. And I believe we stand at a point of great opportunity, that all the world has seen and recognized that there is indeed a problem. And together, I believe we can change it. We can address it. and address it both in terms of our hearts and in the world. We can open up our spirits and allow the Holy Spirit to come and change us and use us to change our city and our country and even our world. Think about it. Pray about it. Thank you.